Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm David. The first time I visited Vietnam back in 2011, it felt like I was in a completely different world. The vibrant streets of Ho Chi Minh City were overwhelming, and despite knowing some Vietnamese, communication was kind of challenging. But that experience motivated me to be prepared, to be more prepared next time I visited. I studied up on a few key words and phrases, and it really transformed my next trip to this country. I want to share those essential words and phrases that help me connect with locals and make my travel more authentic. These are not just any random words, they're tools that can enhance your travel experience and create lasting memories. Before we dive into this, please hit like and share this with somebody who's planning a trip to Vietnam. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more travel tips and insights into life in Vietnam and abroad. Let's get started. I want to start off with some very common used phrases for interacting with others. And then I want to get into some specific phrases for when you go shopping or go to a restaurant. First off, I want to talk about how to address the individuals you are interacting with. Unlike in Western cultures where we use you and I, he, she as pronouns, here is a little bit different because this country does practice filial piety, which values age as well as position of a person. And so you kind of address people in a very different manner. They address total strangers using familial terms to foster respect to those who they interact with. And that's where un, jay, am, zhou, and go comes in. How do you use those words in everyday life? Well, let's first define what they are. So if you're addressing somebody who's older and male, then you call them un. In a situation where it's a woman, then you call them they is older sister. And when you're addressing somebody who's younger than you could even be addressing like a baby. You address them as am, which is younger brother or younger sister. And then the other two, Joe and Go, are basically uncle and aunt. And in everyday life, when you're addressing somebody, you kind of use those phrases with what you're saying. For example, if you're saying thank you to someone, you would say cảm ơn em, which is thank you to somebody who's younger than you, or cảm ơn anh, meaning thank you to an older male that you're talking to. And then J is used for females. And these words are used when you're addressing someone. Let's say if you're trying to get somebody's attention at a restaurant and that person looks younger than you and you want their attention, you say am and you're waving at them and they see you and they'll come over. If it's somebody who's older, then you say an if it's a male, J is a female, and so on and so forth. For older gentlemen, you call them Joe, which is uncle, and then Go or auntie. There is one thing to keep in mind though. If you're in a situation where you don't know if a person is younger than you or not because they look maybe older, but you think that they may be younger than you, maybe err on the side of calling them an am instead of a J. In a lot of situations, women don't tend to like to be seen as older than they really are. The next phrase I want to talk about is xin chào. Xin chào means hello, and you hear it a lot coming from tourists and from people who deal with tourists. But in reality, in normal everyday practice and interactions, you tend to not use xin chào that often. I think more and more so, a lot of Vietnamese, and especially the younger Vietnamese people, do know English. They have learned English and they do know how to speak. And so a lot of times I find myself saying hello more than anything else to people. But on certain situations, if they address me as with xin chào, it's good to know what they're saying. And, it's nice to say back, xin chào or chào anh, using the words that we learned earlier regarding addressing others. You can say chào and it's just a short version of saying xin chào. But in reality though, if you do get to know certain people and stuff like that, you kind of don't use that word xin chào. But it's good to know anyways. On to the next one is thank you. So thank you is a very simple word. Cảm ơn. And I think most of my friends that have visited me, they kind of get a little bit confused because people are saying come on to them and they're thinking, what are they saying? Come on to me. Come on, go where, you know? And it's kind of interesting, kind of funny. When you visit Vietnam, it's good to know come on or come on, depending on the accent. So you get a little bit different, the northern and the central and the southern accent. But come on is thank you. And of course, if somebody's saying thank you to you, you want to reply with a you're welcome. And the phrase is không có chê, không có chê, không có chê, which basically means, you know, you're welcome. But the other one that you can also use is không sao. Không sao means no problem. If somebody runs into you, bumps into you and stuff like that, they say sorry, which is going to be the next word. Then your response with saying không sao is actually kind of nice to let them know, hey, you know, it's okay, don't worry about it. And next is what I mentioned earlier, which is sorry, is xin lỗi. Xin lỗi means I'm sorry. And you can find yourself using that quite a lot because you might ask somebody, have a question of somebody, you might say, sorry, you know, I have a question or something like that. Not in English, but it's a little bit more complicated once you get into Vietnamese. But as a matter of courtesy, it's probably good to use because you might bump into somebody, or you might step on somebody's foot or something like that, and you might want to be courteous and say, I'm sorry. The next batch of words and phrases that I want to get into will actually help you quite a lot when you're going shopping or going to the restaurants and you need to pay bills or, you know, order food or ask questions and things of that sort. First, you want to learn numbers. Numbers from 1 to 10, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is 1 through 10. So numbers are really important because it's stuff that you're going to be using on a regular basis when you're going shopping, when you're at a restaurant. Maybe there's numbers in a menu and, you know, you want to show off a little bit and say those numbers to the server. Or if you're planning on ordering 2 Cokes, then you might want to say hai coca, means that you want 2 Cokes, 2 cans of Coke. And the next one that's really important also when you're at a restaurant or when you're shopping and things like that is to ask for how much something costs. So the phrase is bao nhiêu. The longer phrase is bao nhiêu tiền. Bao nhiêu is how much, tiền is money, how much money. But most people will answer your question with just bao nhiêu. Even if you're trying to get a taxi, or even if somebody approaches you on the street and wants to give you a tour and stuff like that, the best way is to walk away. But if you're curious on how much it is, you can ask bao nhiêu tiền, means how much will it cost. And so that's a good one to learn. And another one, which is very much related to restaurant, is tính tiền. Tính tiền means check please, or tính tiền means counting money. So basically you're telling them to count how much you owe so that you can pay. So tính tiền. The next one is cho tôi. Cho tôi means give me. So if you're asking for something, let's say you see something on the back counter of a store and you want that, you might want to point to that thing and say cho tôi, means, you know, give that to me. And if you even want to be cooler, you may want to say am cho tôi that, you know, and so they'll know that you're addressing them and then what your intention is, what you want from them. And so the next thing is mostly related to restaurants. When you want to eat something or drink something, ang is eat and ung is drink. So those 2 words are mainly used if you want to say, ask somebody, what do you want to drink or anything like that, you can use those words. And the next few are going to be stuff that you want to order at the restaurant. Let's say you want to drink some water, bottled water. Bottled water is called nước suối. Nước suối means kind of like boiled water, but I guess when you filter water and it's put in a bottle, it's assumed it's clean. So, you know, nước suối is bottled water. And in reality, if you really don't know the second word in this phrase, suối, Nook means water. If you're at a restaurant and you want some water, just tell them you want some Nook, and they'll ask you what kind of water do you want. Do you want soda water, which is Nook ngọt, or if you want a bottled water, nước soy. They'll probably usually follow up with something like that. And then if you're at a coffee shop or at a restaurant and you want some coffee, the phrase is just very simple. Cà phê. Cà phê. It's two words, CAPHE, and it means coffee. Of course, my favorite drink is tea. So, and soda water actually. Want to ask for soda water is nước soda. Soda is, basically you're saying I want soda water. Water that's soda. So not very hard to learn these things. And so the other drink that I really enjoy is tea. And you're going to get tea a lot. They have iced tea that's free available at the restaurants and things like that on most restaurants. Maybe some of the higher end ones, they usually charge a few thousand for tea. But tea is cha. And next, if you want ice in your coffee or in your tea, it is da. Next is rice. If you want to eat rice, then the word is gom. If you want to ask for rice. And then if you're looking for noodles, it's mei. And mei really applies to egg noodles. If you're looking for rice noodles, it's bông. And then if you are looking for bread, bánh mì. And it's also the sandwich, bánh mì. So there's a lot of food in there. With anything with bread, it's bánh mì. And finally, as far as food is concerned, there are a lot of vegetarian restaurants here. There's a lot of restaurants that serve vegetarian food that also serve meat. If you're looking for vegetarian food in Vietnam, then you want to use the word chay, and they'll know like you're looking for vegetarian food. Or if you're looking at storefronts and you're looking for some vegetarian food, if you see that word chay, then most likely they serve vegetarian food. And most restaurants that have that out there, they probably like 100% vegetarian. And finally, the most important word I think out there, which is if ever you need to use a toilet, A very, very simple word you ask is toilet. And I know it's kind of weird, but yeah, it's basically toilet. So, but it's said in a very different way, is toilet. So if you need to use the restroom, whether or not in the restaurant, or if you're at the park, or if you're at a store or anything like that, and you need to use the restroom, use the toilet, just ask them, toilet, and then they'll let you know where the toilet is. Anyways, this is a very, very short list. It's not as comprehensive or anything like that. It's just really simple words that I've learned over the years that have helped me really had a great experience when I traveled to Vietnam. And I know it's not comprehensive. And if you guys know of any other words that have helped you in the past in making your experience in Vietnam much more better, please share in the comments. And again, if you enjoy this video, like, and if you think this is helpful to someone else, share and subscribe and turn on notifications for updates if you're interested in any of the materials that I put out. Thanks for getting lost with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. For example, if you're saying hello to for example, if you're saying thank you so